Welcome to yet another edition of Magnificat TV's news program dedicated to providing news of the Church. It's Wednesday, July 5, 2023, and here are our news. The Archbishop of La Plata in Argentina, Monsignor Fernandez, has been appointed prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith. The number of apostates in Germany has increased by 45.4% over the previous year, reaching 522,821 people in 2022. Cardinal Zuppi has visited Moscow as the Pope's envoy for peace in Ukraine. He met with Orthodox Patriarch Kirill. Ultra-Orthodox Jews are waging a campaign of harassment against Christians in Israel. The aggressions are increasing as the days go by. The Inter-American Court of Human Rights has called on the Nicaraguan Sandinista dictator to release the imprisoned Bishop Monsignor Alvarez. Archbishop Fernandez, 60 until now, Archbishop of La Plata, Argentina, has been appointed prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith.
Archbishop Victor Manuel Fernandez, 60, of La Plata, Argentina, has been appointed prefect of the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith. He replaces Cardinal Luis Francisco Ladaria. The new prefect will take up his duties in mid-September 2023. In the letter sent by the Holy Father to the new prefect, he indicates that he entrusts him with a task which I consider very valuable. Its central purpose is to guard the teaching that flows from the faith, in order to give reason for our hope, but not as enemies who point fingers and condemn. The dicastery over which you will preside in other times came to use immoral methods. Those were times when, rather than promoting theological knowledge, possible doctrinal errors were pursued. What I expect from you is certainly something very different. It is not known whether he is also referring to the time of the then Cardinal Ratzinger, prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, during the papacy of St. John Paul II. I ask you, the letter continues, as prefect to dedicate your personal commitment more directly to the main purpose of the dicastery, which is to guard the faith. In order not to limit the significance of this task, it should be added that it is a matter of increasing the intelligence and transmission of the faith in the service of evangelization, so that its light may be a criterion for understanding the meaning of existence, especially in the face of the questions raised by the progress of science and the development of society. Moreover, you know that the Church needs to grow in her interpretation of the revealed Word and in her understanding of the truth, without this implying the imposition of a single way of expressing it. It is good that your task expresses that the Church encourages the charism of theologians and their effort for theological research, as long as they are not content with a desk theology.
The already high number of apostates in Germany has risen dramatically this year by 45.4% to 522,821 people.
More than 500,000 people left the Catholic Church in Germany in 2022. The number of resignations from the Church was 522,821. The German Bishops' Conference has announced. It far exceeds the record of the year 2021, with 359,338 at that time. The Evangelical Church has also been hit by a huge wave of resignations and lost 380,000 members. At the end of last year, a total of 20,973,590 people belonged to the Catholic Church in Germany. Together with deaths, incorporations, and readmissions, this represents a decrease of 708,285 members of the Catholic Church. The number of incorporations remained relatively constant at 1,447 compared to 1,465 in the previous year, while the number of readmissions decreased slightly from 4,116 to 3,753. The Evangelical Church in Germany had already presented its statistics in March. The number of people leaving the church also rose sharply and amounted to 380,000 people, 35.7% more than in 2021. In total, around 19.1 million people belonged to a member church of the Lutheran Confederation in 2021. This represents a decrease of 2.9%.
Cardinal Zuppi met with Orthodox Patriarch Kirill as part of Pope's mediation for peace in Ukraine.
Cardinal Zuppi, sent by the Pope to Ukraine and Moscow to try to mediate a solution to the end of the war, met with Kirill, Patriarch of Moscow. On the civilian side, the Cardinal was received by Yuri Oshakov, advisor to the President Putin. The common work of the churches in the service of the cause of peace and justice was the focus of the conversation between Patriarch Kirill and Cardinal Zuppi, the Pope's envoy to Moscow to ease the tensions of the conflict in Ukraine. It is Kirill's first meeting since the beginning of the war with a direct representative of the Pope, after the hypothesis of a meeting between him and Francis in Jerusalem that could give continuity to the one in Cuba in 2016, which ended with the signing of a joint declaration vanished.
Christians in Israel are suffering insults and aggressions from radical Jews. Complaints have so far had no effect.
A worrying series of attacks by Jewish extremists is affecting Christian churches and holy sites in the Holy Land. These events have been on the rise since the inauguration of the new Israeli government, led by Benjamin Netanyahu and backed by the ultra-nationalist religious groups who have promoted hostile rhetoric towards the Arab community. A few months ago, Monsignor Pizzaballa, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem, denounced the Israeli government's stance, accusing it of fomenting the hatred of Jewish extremists toward Christians in the Holy Land, which has led to a serious worsening of their living conditions. Since the arrival of the new far-right government, attacks have increased significantly. Extremists feel supported by their political leaders and feel bolder thanks to the direct or indirect support of the authorities. This is according to Youssef Daher, Executive Secretary of the Jerusalem Interfaith Center. In addition, Daher noted that the attacks against Christians are rarely prosecuted by the police, and highlighted the pressure Christians have felt to abandon their property and leave. There have been reports of broken windows, graffiti on walls, clerics, nuns, and pilgrims spat on, businesses vandalized, and graves desecrated. Since January, at least 11 serious attacks have been recorded, almost double the number of attacks in the whole of last year. However, according to the organization, these figures only consider property damage and physical assaults, as the daily acts of spitting and insults in the Holy City are innumerable.
The Inter-American Court of Human Rights has asked the Nicaraguan government to release Monsignor Alvarez, whose state of health is worrying.
The Inter-American Court of Human Rights issued a ruling ordering Nicaragua to release Bishop Orlando Alvarez, who has been sentenced to 26 years in prison. The ruling will have no practical effect, as dictator Daniel Ortega has already ignored previous rulings. The judges have also ordered that while the administrative procedures for the immediate release of Alvarez are being carried out, the state must guarantee dignified treatment with immediate access to health services, medicines, and adequate food, as well as facilitating his contact with family and lawyers. The court reported that this resolution is based on the fact that Monsignor Alvarez is in such a serious situation that there is a risk of irreparable damage to his life, health, and personal integrity. Furthermore, the judges maintain that this situation is aggravated by the fact that he has been condemned to the perpetual loss of his citizenship rights and the loss of his Nicaraguan nationality, which places him in a situation of extreme vulnerability.
Our editorial this week is devoted to commenting on the massive apostasy of Catholics in Germany and the pain of many of the faithful at the confusion in the church.
In our Proverbs says that God blinds the one who wants to lose. They say it from their faith, which is not ours, and according to which God wants to punish someone, and for that he blinds him. That is to say, he prevents him from seeing that he's going to ruin. From our faith, we will use the words of the Blessed Virgin Mary in the Magnificat, cast down from the throne the mighty and exalt the lowly. Perhaps we will even change the word mightily for the word arrogant, which seems to me to correspond more to the sense of the text, because there can be power for good, insane, as has happened, for example, in history with great saints who have been kings or queens, cast down from the throne the arrogant and exalt the humble. Why? Because the arrogant is characterized by being unable to think that he may be wrong, for being unable to make an examination of conscience and learn from his mistakes. The arrogant is himself divinized and thinks he knows everything and that he is really more than God. If he still believes in God, it could be said that the arrogant or the arrogance proudly move backwards. This reflection comes on account on the data that became known this week about the Catholic Church in Germany. Those who have apostatized from the Church, which is easy to count because they are those who have stopped paying the compulsory tax, the religious tax, which is an extra tax collected by the state, which is then given to both Catholics and Lutherans. Those who have apostatized from the Church are no less than 522,821. It is a huge number. It has already passed the 500,000 mark. We must take into account the last year, which was already a very large number. Those who apostatized were 359,388, and that means that in just 1 year, the number of those who have been voluntarily left the Church has grown by 45.4%. This is an outrage. In 1 year, the number of those who have voluntarily left the Church has increased by almost 50%. If we add to this the decided, logically, we must add to this figure those who have entered by baptism. In total, the Catholic Church has lost 3.2% of its members, and in the year 2022, the vast majority due to voluntary apostasy, more than 500,000. It is a figure that could be enough for leaders, the bishops, and the laity of the very powerful synodal path to reflect on. But since God knocks down the arrogant from the throne, and they are arrogant, they are incapable of recognizing that they are making a mistake, no matter what happens, no matter what the numbers screams. It does not matter. Their response has been immediately people are leaving because we are not sufficiently applying what the German Synod has approved. They could say that as they could say anything else. People are leaving because we don't play guitar music in church, or because we don't put more flower decorations. They could say whatever they want, but they say it is stupid. There is no other word for this. It is stupid, and I am not. It is not that I am not convinced. It is that I am sure that they are not stupid. So they deliberately did not want to recognize the reality. And why? Why is it not that cows out there put flowers, or if they put guitars? Very simple. What is happening with the Lutheran Church, with the Protestant Church? The Protestants have everything that those who still call themselves Catholic want to have. Female priesthood, acceptance of homosexual practices, acceptance of everyone who wants to go to communion, marry priests, marry homosexual priests, bishopess, marry bishopess, lesbians, homosexuals. That is, they have everything. They do not deprive themselves of anything. They have even decided to abandon a kind of mixed committee with the Catholics in defense of life, against abortion and euthanasia. The Lutherans have even decided to abandon it because they are in favor of abortion and euthanasia. Well, the Lutherans who have all these things that the Catholics, those who call themselves Catholics in Germany, want to have lost 380,000 members in this 2022 year. 380,000 Lutherans from the church that has everything that the Catholic Church dreams of having have left the Lutheran Church, together with those who have died and everything else, represents a drop of 2.9% for the Lutheran Church, a figure very similar to the decrease that the Catholics have had, 3.2, the Catholics 2.9, the Lutherans 2.9. One could even say, and I think it is logical to affirm it, that is this 0.3% drop that the Catholics have had over Lutherans is due precisely to those Catholics who are disappointed in their church, not because they are not applying the synodal principles, but because they are applying them too much and they are fed up and can no longer stand up to see what they are seeing every Sunday in many of the supposedly Catholic churches in Germany. But in any case, what cannot be said is that they are leaving the Catholic Church. They are apostatizing from the Catholic Church because the synod is not being applied. And it cannot be said because those who are applying even more than what the synod asks for are also leaving the church, in this case from the Lutheran Church. Of these pastors and very powerful German Laity, it can be said that there is no one worse blind than he who does not want to see. They are so arrogant that they proudly move backwards. This week, a book by two important Italian Vaticanists, Porfiri and Valli, has also been published in Italy. The title of the book is very significant: Rootless, Uprooted. Porfiri, one of the authors, writes in the blog of another important Vaticanist, Tosatti, and says that the following after the publication of this book, that he has written together with Valli. Valli is also Porfiri, I no less. Valli is exceptional, says Porfiri in Tossatti's blog. One thing very evident is that not a few Catholics today find themselves in a situation the French could call a dead end. That is, precisely because their firm convictions let them know that outside the church there is no salvation. They no longer feel at home. On the other hand, we believe that outside the church there is no salvation. And on the other hand, inside the church they are not at ease. They are not comfortable. And adds that the cause of this uprooting is that these Catholics persevere that this church does not seem to fulfill its mission as it is now aligned with the worldly narrative. A church that has systematically destroyed treasures of spirituality, tradition, art, the pursuit, a world that has lost all interest in her, uprooted, suffering greatly, and suffering greatly because they love their church and because they want to remain Catholic, but suffering because at the same time they do not feel identified with the church they love and which they want to remain. They are uprooted. Is anyone taking into account the suffering of this great number of Catholics who feel displaced from the church, sometimes even insulted by some of those in charge? Is anyone taking into account how much these people are suffering? Because it seems that no one cares about the pain that is being caused in this abyss of confusion into which the church is entering. For example, with the issue of the Synod. I am convinced, and I have already said it more than once, that neither in this October section nor in the next years, whatever is approved, it will not be put into practice. There have already been previous synods, the most recent one in the Amazon, where certain things were requested, the priesthood of Mary people, for example, and they have not been put into practice. I am convinced that they will not be put into practice neither the priesthood of women or homosexual marriage, nor the opening of communion to all those who wish to receive communion. I am convinced that they will not be put into practice in the event that they are approved. But the very fact that it has to be put to a vote, to discussion, it is even possible the charges and essential questions of dogma, of morals, of liturgy, of the sacraments may be approved by the majority. The very fact that this is put to discussion is something that puts many Catholics in suffering, and it does not seem to matter to anyone that they suffer. Let them suffer or live. That is what some seem to want. Let them suffer or live at once, and let us make this new church. But it turns out that those uprooted Catholics, as Vasily and Porphyry says, those Catholics who are suffering within the church are the majority of those who are possibly still going to Mass on Sunday, and are the majority of those who still contribute to the church, not only into collections, but in any other kind of help for any need that the church demands of them. And if those Catholics who cannot take it anymore, who are really suffering horribly without anyone caring, if those Catholics leave, who is going to pay the bills? Even those who make fun of them, insult them, every day a good couple of insults to start the day, they too will have to think that at this rate, there will be no one left even to pay for their funerals. With an increase in Germany, and this is only a quantified example, with an increase in Germany of 45.4% of runaway, of apostasies in only 1 year. The future of this new church is really very dark, but let us think beyond the number in the people. How much pain, how much suffering caused by the confusion. May God grant that those who can fix this and fix it listen to the cry of suffering of the people that goes up to God every day, asking God that if it is possible this chalice may pass. Until next week, God willing.
We will continue to keep you informed on what is happening in the church, but you could do so on your own, consulting our webpage www.magnificat.tv. See you next week, God willing.